Hi all, welcome back. A couple of weeks ago, I made live CleanCut, a completely free and open source extension for Premiere Pro that allows you to manage silences. It's been very well received and I've received a lot of warm messages, so thank you very much. I have also received some ideas on what to add next, and this one in particular caught my eye. So thank you very much to Casper785 for coming up with this idea. I think it's brilliant and it's not something that other tools that allow you to manage silences have. So if you follow Casper's link, you'll land on a tutorial from 5 years ago on how to remove frozen frames from a video. This is particularly helpful if you have screen recordings because it will only leave the constant action and no pauses in between. I have tried this tutorial 5 years later and I can tell you it still works, so this is still an option if you wanted to do it through the command line, but this is the feature that we've added to CleanCut this week. This video is a bit shorter than the last one. The way I have planned it is to explain you first what this new tool is, how to install it, and what's next for CleanCut. So let's get started. When you update and open CleanCut, you'll find this new button called Frame Decimation. Now, I did not coin this term of decimating frames. This is from FFmpeg's documentation. But essentially what we're doing is that we're dropping the frames that do not differ greatly from the previous frame in order to reduce the frame rate. And that's all it does, but it does save a huge amount of time. So as a quick demo, all you have to do is that when you open CleanCut, it doesn't even need to be connected to Premiere Pro, to be honest, but I've left it connected to show you in a second that you can run Frame Decimation in parallel while still being able to use CleanCut. Once you go into the Frame Decimation menu, you'll be prompted with this single screen, and you can upload one file or multiple files at a time. Now, this is a big improvement from just using it on the terminal because processing each file does take a long time. So for long videos, it can take you hours to get your decimated video back. So all you have to do is click on this menu or drag and drop your files. You can add one or multiple files at a time. You'll see here I've done a few tests. I'll do multiple just to show you. Then when you click open, you can choose your output folder. It will be the same file name plus an underscore decimated. And if you have multiple videos, it'll queue them for you. So I am going to press process, and that will first encode the videos and then process them. And once it's done, it'll give you a little summary. In this case, test A was reduced by 66.3% and test C was halved in length. Just a heads up, on the tests I run on my humble Mac mini machine, this sometimes took the entirety of my CPU power. It's very hard to convey in words what's just happened, but I hope these two videos illustrate it. So this is test A, which is 2 minutes, and this is the decimated version of test A, which is now 42 seconds. If I press play on test A, you'll see that there is a series of frames as time goes by that do not change. If I press play on the decimated version of test A, you'll see that the action kicks in immediately because all those frames have been removed. Because this process can take such a long time on long videos, something I was very keen of on top of creating cues was the ability to be able to run it in the background while still being able to use CleanCut. So just to demonstrate that very quickly, if I go back into Frame Decimation and I load 2 new files to process, I can queue them and have them process in the background. I can also leave this menu and come back to it and it'll remember where it's at during the process. And I can keep using CleanCut as normal. So in this case, I can go back into remove silences and I can process the silences in my scene. This will work as normal. And if I go back onto the home page and back onto the Frame Decimation menu, CleanCut continues to run the frame decimation process in the background. My previous video walked us through step by step on how to install CleanCut from scratch. What I've done since is update this repository with the new steps. So if you're not familiar with following instructions from GitHub to install applications, I highly recommend you watch the install part of the previous video first. This is exactly the same GitHub repository, but I'll put the link again in the video description. Now we do have FFmpeg as a prerequisite and detailed instructions on how to install it. If you're on a Mac, this is very, very simple. I recommend using a package manager. I use Homebrew. All Homebrew is a package manager that allows us to install packages from our terminal. There are other out there. Homebrew has never failed me. And once you install Homebrew, all you have to do is run this command, brew install ffmpeg. If you're in a Windows machine, this is my best attempt to explain you how to install FFmpeg, their website does have the install instructions in it. If you have been on this page before, I hope that you noticed that I have made some improvements on the instructions for Windows. These are mainly from the feedback I have received from people trying to install CleanCut on their Windows machines. This one is particularly important, which is that it wasn't possible for Windows users before to install the extension setup, and that's because you had to run a command prompt as an administrator. That's something I didn't know, but it was useful feedback. So if you run the command prompt as an administrator, by right-clicking and choosing Run as Administrator, you should be able to run these commands, replacing your actual project paths, and this will create a simulated link. Now, if this doesn't work, what you can do is that when you download the project, you can just copy this folder here called Premiere Extension into the same path. For the avoidance of doubt, that's this folder into this path here. That will do exactly the same trick as creating the simulated link and will allow Premiere Pro to recognize the CleanCut extension, which will hopefully mean that you should be able to connect to Premiere Pro without any problems. CleanCut is my very first open source project, let alone my first desktop application and Premiere Pro plugin, but it has already saved me the time it took me to develop it, and I've had immense pleasure sharing it with others. One thing I will try to learn in the near future is to be able to turn it into a standalone application or executable, which will allow people who just want to use it to be able to do so without going through cumbersome installation steps. But if you have any other ideas on what we should add next to CleanCut, simply let me know in the comments below or in the comments in Reddit. I might soon learn to create a simple feature requests website, so ideas aren't lost on different threads. Thanks.